I remember, yeah, we got on the plane on Halloween. Like I said, the clerks were all dressed up in costumes. It was myself, Spencer Twitchell, and Marley Redford. We've all got on the plane together, and we rode an 11-hour flight from Salt Lake City to Charles de Gaulle in France, in Paris. And we were there for 6 hours in a layover, and man, were we tired. But we were excited, really excited. We didn't know what was going to happen. And we got another 11-hour flight. So two 11-hour flights. And I slept a lot of the second flight, but I remember being really excited, way excited. And a very funny story. The other two can testify to this too. Right when it was half an hour before our plane was landing, and I just had the biggest stomach problems, and my stomach really hurt. But you couldn't go to the bathroom because it was closed, and there was a big fiasco with right when it was landing. But I remember looking out the window and just seeing palm trees. I said, and the ocean, and a huge green mountain. I said, "Wow, I've never seen a place like this before. I don't know what this is going to be like." And we land. Our mission president meets us there, President Donnelly, and the assistants to the president, and we're just shaking hands, and we were so excited. We were so kind of just beaming. We went, and but the first memory, definitely aside from palm trees and humidity, is I remember we found the closest church was just about 10 minutes away from the airport, where we had our little orientation, and we pulled up to the church, and it was surrounded by this big fence. And it looked like the windows were like slotted, so you couldn't, like, they weren't just plain windows, they had kind of bars across them, and there was an electric gate to get inside. I said, "What are they afraid of? I mean, what is going on? Like, why is there this fence around the church?" Like, it just seemed like we were in a jungle, like kind of this jungle island, and I was like, what are they defending the church from? And I didn't realize that's just how everything is. That everyone has a fence, everyone has a wall. It's just kind of the culture there. And it wasn't anything strange to anyone else. So it was just kind of a weird culture thing, the first thing to see. And I met my trainer, I was scared of, but now we're great friends. But he had received a very bad haircut the day before I arrived, and his hair might have been a millimeter or two long because they had to get rid of it, pretty much shave his whole head. So he was a little scary looking, but once it grew out, we became great friends. I know, just a lot of adjustment, but it was great.
First of all, it's a really long flight to get to Madagascar from Provo. Several really long flights, but the last leg of the journey is from South Africa, Johannesburg, to Madagascar. And one of the first things I remember is looking out the window and seeing all these, like this really dirty river that was like red dirt river. And all this laundry laid out over the ground, because that's how they dry their laundry. And just seeing not seeing many like buildings or houses or anything. And it was really exotic, really cool. It's like, well, this could be interesting. And then we landed, and the airport's really, really small. It's nothing like any American airport. It's really small. You actually get off the plane onto the tarmac, which I thought was, something you only see in movies. Like, oh yeah, they actually got off the plane straight, like the president or whatever it is. You got right off onto the tarmac, and I remember it being really humid. I'm from Utah, and it's not humid at all. And so going to Madagascar was quite the shock. And we had to go through this, it's not customs per se, but something similar to that. But of course we didn't understand what was going on because we couldn't speak the language. And then met our mission president, and I just remember being kind of like in a daze, not knowing what to expect. And from the airport to the mission office was about an hour, about 45 minutes to an hour drive. And I just remember looking out the window, I was with people I knew from the MTC, but then with mission drivers and people, the assistants, and I just remember looking out the window and thinking, man, where did I go? Because it was so different. It was so busy and so crowded, and the streets are really narrow, and I just didn't know what to expect. I mean, it was exciting, but I was tired, first of all, from the flight. But it was so different. And we spent the first couple days, relaxing, I guess, getting adjusted. We went on splits the first night, with older missionaries. Actually, one of the guys I teach with at the MTC was the one I went on splits with. So went on splits and got a little bit of experience. And I remember he asked me, the missionary I went with, to invite the person to be baptized, or no, not to invite him to be baptized, but to ask him who he wanted to baptize him, because he was getting baptized that Saturday. And so I was like, I don't know how to say that. I thought I kind of knew, and so I like checked with him, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, okay, sweet. And I said it, and it was a good confidence builder for me. I mean, having come straight from the MTC, where I didn't think I knew much, to be able to do that, I was obviously still really scared. And then, so I spent more time in the mission office than the rest of my group, because the rest of my group stayed in the capital. That was their first area. They all served there to begin with, but I went out to the coast, and so I spent a day longer with the mission president, and then I got on a bus, and with another missioner who I didn't know, who I just met. He was American, so I could talk to him, but we got on a bus and rode out 9 hours, 7, 8, 9 hours to the coast, and I get really car sick, and the roads there, like I mentioned, they're narrow, they're not very good, and they drive really fast, and then until they have to slow down for pothole or whatever it is, and so that wasn't good for me, and I was hot and sweating, and I was wearing a suit, and I just remember praying a lot, first of all, that I wouldn't throw up, and just like trying to sleep the whole time, and eventually it passed. They got there, and it was I met my trainer, and for the first couple of weeks, actually, in my first area, I think I wondered why I was there. Not necessarily as a missionary, but just in that specific situation. My trainer was he was new, or I wasn't used to him. He was different than what I expected, and it was interesting experience at first. And I think those first 3 months were probably the maybe not the hardest part of my mission, but the most crucial months for me, at least in terms of growth and effectiveness as a missionary. So
I was pretty overwhelmed by everything. We arrived late at night. Mission president was in a hurry. It was raining a lot. We got in right during the rainy season, so there's deep puddles everywhere. And I spent some time in some rainy places, but there's a lot of rain, and it's definitely exciting, but overwhelming. It's different in almost every way, and it's completely different. The climate, the culture of the people, like how people think, it's just the complete reverse of anything. And I've traveled a bunch since then, and Madagascar is still the coolest place I've ever been. And it's still the most different place I've ever been. And the most different culturally and everything else.